What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Post Hunt Clarity.
Post-hunt clarity. Yeah. This is episode, I don't even know, dude. It's 14 or 15. I always forget. I think we're on 14.
I haven't kept
We've
up.
been doing this for almost a whole year now. I think our first podcast ever we did was on Halloween of last year.
Yeah, that sounds
So-
right.
So 52 weeks in a year. Let's say we'll have 15, possibly 16 episodes by then. I mean, that's pretty good for first-year podcasters. Most people will post 5 podcasts and then be done with it, and think, okay, well, we tried.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're averaging more than one a month, so...
No, and that's good. I mean, I look at it the same way with my YouTube channel. Ideally, like, THP and your big guys, most of them are posting minimum 1 video a week. Like, the hunting public is something else because they're posting... I mean, they average 2 videos a week, sometimes 3, which is a lot of work, and you need a good team to do that. So for, like, me on YouTube, I made a thing where I want to average 2 videos a month, and I've done that, for the most part. I mean, there's a couple months out of the year where I'll go and, it's like, I have 1 video for 2 months, and other times it's like I'll post 4 videos in a month. So it averages out, but that's just content terms. Like,
You're also not paid to make outdoor content full-time. I mean, I guess you are, but, like, not your own personal outdoor content full-time. You know what I mean? Those guys are. Which, like, I'm not saying
not
that in a way taking anything away from them, because it still is a lot of work, but, like, when that's kind of your one job, it probably makes it a little easier.
Yeah, and now I'm finally in a position where I get to write off all my hunting shit, which is awesome for me. I've taken all... I should have been doing it for a while. I guess my cousin Austin, because the Beagle Boy Outdoors was an LLC, makes no revenue, but he's still writing stuff off. And, now it's like every trip I go on, like even my sits locally here, if I'm driving 20 miles to go hunt, deduct the mileage there and back because I'm filming for YouTube to generate some revenue, even though it may only be a couple dollars or whatever it is. It's tax write-off. I'm doing it for my business. So
Yeah.
Denzine Media and Marketing is in full swing.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm sure all our viewers say congrats, too.
Yeah, all 7 of them. That'd be awesome.
Right. Yeah, you'll feel really wanted after that. All right, anyways.
So the topic of the day is going to be, and this was Ben's choice, by the way, guys, scent control. So very rarely do we ever talk about scent control. Everybody in the outdoor space has their own opinion on scent control. And my opinion throughout my life has changed on it. I know a lot of people I hunt with are very different on scent control. There's some people that absolutely give 0 shits. They'll roll in, whatever, they'll spray on cologne before they go hunt and go, for a sit. I also know guys that's like, they are washing clothes a month before a season, letting them hang outside, stashing them in the off season with like balsam limbs and stuff like that. And then when they get to the truck, they're spraying off in scent killer head to toe. Then they get to the tree and they're tossing on nose jam or whatever. Like, so all across the board, it seems this topic is very different.
Yeah, it's
and the only thing I do want to start with
Go ahead.
is that taking this from a realist standpoint today, not just the hunting industry. I work in the hunting industry. I pay people to push products. Yes, they use the products. Some of them really love the products. Some people are just like, okay, like I'm getting paid to do this, so I'm going to say what I have to say to get paid. That's what happens with scent control on a very real note. The people that really push that stuff, like, yes, they're getting paid to do so. But this is going to be coming from 2 people that are not paid to use any type of scent product. They have no affiliations with scent products. So this is the unbiased, real opinions from somebody that's, an average Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those, like, hunting buzzwords, right? Like, it's an easy topic for people to throw around, whether you know a lot about hunting, don't know a lot about hunting. It's a hot button topic, and it's, something that I feel like I've heard a little bit less and less about over recent months, or not recent months, recent years. But I guess let's start with, what did your scent control regimen look like when you first started hunting? Or maybe more hunting on your own? Well, no, let's say like when you first started hunting. However you want to approach it, and let's kind of both dive into that. And I don't know if you want to go first or you want me to go first, but if you want to go,
mine's almost like a bell curve. So starts low, gets high, starts low again, and I'll go through what that means. When I first started hunting, only thing I knew is what my dad and my uncles taught me. That's how I learned to hunt. Everything I know was introduced by them. So what we did is we definitely washed our clothes like well before, like 3 weeks before season. This is bow season, gun season, in like scent killer or just LOC soap or something that had no scent-free soap.
Yep.
Then, because of where I lived, we grew up, and between my parents' house and their neighbor's house, there's a big row of white pines. There's like 30 of them in a row. It's a property line. We would honestly hang our clothes just in the pines, so it smelled like pine. But when we'd go to hunt, my dad never carried scent killer. We never sprayed anything on before we started hunting. We just, went out and hunted. And I think my dad and my uncles played the wind. When I was at that age, it was never a thought in my mind that where I sit is dictated by the wind. I just went and sat, and I've had many sits I saw deer and killed deer or could have killed deer, and many sits that I just had deer blowing at me and spooking because they smelled me. And it was always up to random. Like, I never had it in my mind that, if I have a west wind, I should not be sitting west of where I think the deer are going to come out.
Right.
I just picked a tree in the woods, but it was also a lack because I never scouted. I just sat where I was told to sit, or, Dad would be like, I'm dropping you off in this area within 100 yards, pick a tree. But I never knew where the deer were supposed to come from, so I'm just like, okay, this one's the easiest to climb. I think I can shoot. I think I can see. I'm going to climb up that tree. And I either got lucky and deer didn't smell me, or they smelled me, one of the two. And this is way before thermals were even a topic, right? So this seems to be a hot key. Thermals, not going to dive too much into that. Just in the last couple of years when I started paying attention to it, or to them, I just, again, went out and sat. So no, I was never really into like hardcore scent, products and stuff that was available on the market. Just was a believer, like, I want my clothes to, try and not smell as much as possible, and then I'm just going to go out and hunt.
Yeah.
And then I would say kind of in my career, probably when I turned 16, 17, there was a product.
Nose jammer?
It might have been on the market longer than, yes, so this is what I'm going to get into.
I knew it. I've seen it. All your old content has nose jammer in it.
I went on a hunt with my cousin Austin, and he brought out this thing, and we're all sitting. When we used to hunt in Eau Claire, we'd have a deer camp for bow season, opening weekend. We'd stay at our buddy Riley's, just on the southwest or southeast side of Eau Claire, kind of past Target and Coles area. He lived just outside of town. We'd pull up a camper, and that's what we do. Well, opening morning, everybody's getting dressed, and all of a sudden we smell like a strong scent of cupcakes. And I see my cousin Austin, spraying himself up with this can of shit that smelled. He was laughing at everybody. He's like, I smell like cupcakes. He's like, yeah, I saw it at Shields, and the guy was telling me that it clogs their nose, and it's, really good. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Never tried something like this. Spray me up, and it was more because I liked the smell. I was like, shit, this stuff smells good, like vanilla cupcakes. And I had some hunts where I definitely, this is forward pass, where now I've learned to, I need to play the wind. I need to sit and stand. The wind's coming this way. Ideally, the deer would come from this way, so this is the right stand or this is not the right stand. Thermal's still not a topic yet, only wind direction. And then I bought some nose jammer, and I started using it. And I thought I had good success. I would have cases where there's deer downwind, and I think they would smell something because you watch them sniff and stop. But I've had more deer in that few years I was using nose jammer that wouldn't spook off. Now, maybe I would still get smelled occasionally, and I'd just write it off, whatever, I didn't spray enough, or just, there's too much scent anyways, and there's nothing I could do about it. But I feel like there was a little bit of a correlation to spooking less deer. Now, fast forward, I lived in Missouri. I still use nose jammer, but for some reason, I think I've had more cases too where like, when I first started using nose jammer, it was like the first 8 sits I felt like, which maybe were just a good win, where I'm like, I never got smelled. I'm going to keep using this stuff. Then I kept using nose jammer, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting smelled more often than not. So it's kind of 50-50 to whether this actually works or not. It's more of like a mental backing. Like, it probably doesn't work, but just to potentially increase my odds, it's a myth, right? It's a myth. This answer's still not solved, even if Ozonics tells you this. It's a myth. I'm going to apply it just as like, a last resort, a shot in the dark. Maybe this will save my ass, maybe not. So I started doing that. I still today, I carry it in my pack. Like, I went and hunted yesterday night, and I wasn't like I showered in the morning, but we're talking 8-9 hours later. I had worked all day. I was in a boat. I was fishing. I was like all this other stuff that went on. I had been in a warehouse, and then just sitting at home. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to shower again. My clothes right now, I mean, you can see them behind my screen. I no longer like keep them in a tub. Right when I grew up, I'd leave my clothes in a tub. After I'd go home from a hunt, I wouldn't just hang them up. I'd put them back in a tote like that had balsam fir limbs and stuff, smelled like a Christmas tree, just because I was like, okay, keep that smell. Now I don't care, dude. Like, my house smells like a house. Like, you get, soaps, you get food smells. I mean, honestly, my clothes probably smell like weed. So, like, just all these different types of smells. But, I almost don't care. And here's where my opinion changed, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years. I started diving into thermals and really once I got in the industry, like, that's when you realize, like, I talk to more people where they share the opinion that scent control is like a gag, meaning that there's no way to beat it because the deer's sense of smell is so much beyond ours that we really can't comprehend it, that even if you kill your scent and you can't smell it, or you're using one of those other products, like, you're not eliminating every scent that, is on your clothes. And then I kind of got into the debate about nose jammer, where this is where my opinion rests today. Nose jammer is not a scent killer. It's not destroying scent. I look at it as a cover scent. So it blends with your personal scent, but what the properties do with nose jammer are theoretically, right, the vanilla smell kind of like blocks something, so that's all they smell. It's kind of like a high potency thing, right? So, like, if you're in a room and you smell, maybe there's dirty garbage or mold or something like that, but you take a bottle of hand sanitizer, you open up in front of your nose, you take a sniff, the only thing you're smelling, everything's still in the room, is that bottle of hand sanitizer. It's the only thing you can smell. Right. In a way, I think somewhat that product, just because it has the vanilla in it, does something like that, but I'm still not like super convinced on, because I still get smelled. Like, I do not, and I'm making this clear, I'm not saying when I apply nose jammer that, okay, I'm safe now. Like, I don't think that. If a deer gets downwind of me or my thermals are dropping, they're still going to smell me. Like, whatever. But for some reason in the back of my head, it's like, it's a last resort. I don't believe it hurts anything, so I don't, like, if I want to put it on, I'll put it on, but I'm still 50-50 about it. It just depends. Like, if I've showered and I'm like, whatever, I'm clean, I think my clothes are good, like, I'll just walk in the woods. And I've also sat wearing, work clothes or just regular solids that I've worn all day, days prior, or I washed them in. Ellie uses those Febreze things when she does laundry, those pods or whatever. And so my clothes smell like laundry detergent, not even scent-free. I'll still go hunt, and I think it's just me being smarter, where instead of putting false hopes and faith in products, that people try to sell you, there's a hunter's instinct and some woodsmanship that most people, I think, just need to learn, and that would be, taking some time to dive into how thermals work, the terrain you're working with, not just scent at your tree, but what your scent's doing 50, 60, 100 yards away from your tree. And that's why people are using things like milkweed to see how scent travels, and just being more methodical about picking your spot. I think that's helped me as a hunter tremendously just the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all good stuff. You want me to go?
Yeah, absolutely. What's your stab at it? Don't you drink that stuff? You get a bottle of scent killer, mix it in with your water, and you drink it?
Yeah, I do. That helps eliminate it when I sweat. It gets rid of all my scent.
would you believe that there's probably guys, like, you never heard about it, but would you possibly think there's guys that do stuff like that?
I know a guy that like showers in scent killer every day all year long, like 365 days a year. If he's showered, he's in scent killer. I don't know what his reasoning behind it is. Like, I'm assuming it's that he just thinks like if he uses it every day, he's gonna just naturally reduce his human scent. I don't know, but like, granted, this was like 10 years ago too. But so I guess my experience on scent control is like when I started hunting, it was like I grew up fairly fortunate when it came to like who I learned hunting from. Like, my family's fairly good hunters. Like, my uncle kills a lot of big bucks, like is one of the best hunters I've ever met. My grandpa, even, who's 80 years old, like he's got a lot of hunting experience. Like, he's still pretty up to date with like the newer topics coming out, you know. Even my dad, like, even though he doesn't hunt a ton, you know, he might only go a few times a year, like, he's a pretty good hunter. He's killed a lot of big bucks. And so I learned from them, and they were all, like, I don't want to say hot on the topic of scent control, but, like, we all believed in it pretty seriously. But it was never, like, you're going to outsmart the deer's nose. You know what I mean? It was like, like my grandpa tried to tell me when I was like 14, 15, 16, like, no, you can't go to that stand, the wind's wrong. Even though he washed his clothes, he owned scent lock, like, he kept them in totes, he sprayed down. Like, we never believed that you were going to outsmart the deer's nose. I think I did a little bit when I was younger, just because, like, you want to be, like, you want to believe what you see, especially, like, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, like, oh, kills 99% of scent, like, sure, that's going to work. You know what I mean? So I started, I guess I may be getting a little off topic, but, like, I started, and I would wash my clothes, you know what I mean, in scent killer, dryer sheets that were, you know, scent blocker or whatever, store them in totes. We were never, like, you know, put like pine limbs or whatever in your totes, but you always kept them in totes or like those big Ziploc bags, or even I have one of those like roll up ScentLock Go bags that I still have to this day. Like, I'd store my stuff in there. Sometimes if I had a piece that I was worried about like drying too much, well, I'd let it air dry like out in the pine trees outside of our house or whatever. And yeah, I'd try to like not wear my clothes until I got out of my truck at the piece of land I was going to. I'd spray down, you know what I mean? Maybe use field wipes even, depending on like if I ate on my way out there or something. And slowly, like, I feel like part of that was just the topic around the time that you and I got into hunting too. Like, it's kind of like how thermals are now, except thermals have like scientific backing behind them. Like, Scent Lock and Scent Blocker were the Sitkas and Kuyus of the time. You know what I mean? Like, that's what everybody was buying.
2010s, like late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah, 2010 to 2015 even. Like, those were that was the stuff people were wearing. Maybe even late. I mean, it might have been 2017 or 2018 before. Like, now I feel like Scent Lock and Scent Blocker have kind of dropped off pretty significantly. They're still around, but so that was kind of just like the buzzword, you know, scent control, especially back then. And that's why I feel like I've seen it drop off a little lately. And as I got older, like, I would say I somewhat strongly believed that I could outsmart a deer's nose, like, until I was like 16 or 17, and just kind of got into like hunting the wind the last year or two before I went to college, and still like followed the same regimen. You know, I would shower with scent blocker before I went out, and spray down, whatever. It was a couple years ago, so when I got done with college, that I really started to believe in wind direction, like hunting the wind, and kind of the first time I had heard thermals. And I didn't really understand thermals at the time, but it was around then that I started to do some research on like a deer's nose, and that it started to click in my head a little bit of like, I always think of the example, it's like, okay, well, let's say that this product does work 100%. It eliminates all your human scent, right? Well, I get in the shower, I shower, and I'm completely human scent free. Well, then I still dry off with the same towel I use every day. You know, I don't have a separate hunting towel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say that you didn't wash and scent killer. So
right.
You're using a towel. And I do the same thing, right? You know, Ellie washed it again with the Febreze stuff.
Yeah.
So I sit there and scrub myself. Yeah, same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And you go wipe yourself down on the towel that's got scent.
Yeah, and so once I realized, like, how strong a deer's nose is and started to realize some of those things, like, okay, even if I didn't put my clothes on in my truck that I was going to hunt in, like I changed or I got to the land, I still got in my truck that I drive in every day. You know what I mean? I've eaten fast food in that truck. Like, I've got a freaking scent wick hanging in there, like a non-hunting scent wick, just a scented one. Like, it's like, okay, even if I do all the right things to my clothes and my body, like, there's still things happening in between that are going to be enough scent for the deer to pick up on if it gets downwind of me. So that's when I really started to become a big believer in the fact that, like, scent control is kind of bullshit. And I can tell you, like, to this day, I still participate in it, I guess if that's the right word. Like, I still wash my clothes. I try to store them in bins, especially, like, if I get really, really sweaty going in and out, like, I'll try to rewash them. But it's for the fact of, like, my thing, and this might be totally wrong, but, like, my thing is not necessarily scent control when I'm hunting. It's leaving scent in the woods that I try to eliminate. Like,
Sure.
I do believe that, like, spray, body wash, all that stuff probably does reduce your human scent to some level. And it's one of those things to me where it's like, if it's not expensive to do it, you know what I mean? And it's like, if it does help a little bit, why not try it? Yeah, I'm not a nut about it like I used to be. Like, I wouldn't go hunting beforehand without shower in scent control. Now it's like, I don't really care. But if I can try to reduce my amount of scent that I leave in the woods, like, yeah, I'm going to try and do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's maybe my thinking's wrong. Maybe if I leave 10% of my scent in the woods or 100% of my scent in the woods, the amount of time it's in there is still the same. I guess my thought has always been if I leave less scent, it'll linger for less time. That's probably not right, I guess, as I'm saying it out loud. But, like, I don't know. You're not hurting anything by trying it either. So, like I said, I definitely 100% believe in, like, hunting the wind now, paying attention to thermals. Like, you're not going to outsmart a deer's nose. But I think you and I have both had situations where it's like a deer comes in where you don't expect it to, and it doesn't wind you, and you're like, how? Like, how did that deer not wind me? You know what I mean? And so it is one of those hard things to, like, place your finger on. Does this have a little bit of an effect or not? And, like, you and I were talking the other night, and sometimes I think it's almost like if you don't make your presence known, like, the deer doesn't see you, they're not weary of you, they don't see you up in the tree, they didn't cross your ground scent, and your wind's blowing toward them, sometimes I feel like it's almost like they don't know to smell for you. And again, maybe that's wrong, maybe I sound like a dumbass saying that, but, like, if they're completely calm, like, because deer are always kind of looking for danger, I mean, that's just how they are as animals, but, like, I don't know, you had that situation the other night, you had a situation last night where deer came in downwind of you, and, like, not one. So
now that you just brought me up, you kind of got my wheels spinning while we're doing this, and I'm starting to wonder because, you know, thinking back, I've had a lot of those. Just example last night, you know, where I walked in on this trail. That doe that I sent you a picture of that I filmed right away. I mean, she crossed right where I'd walked and never, like, she didn't gawk at ground scent or anything like that. In fact, she ate acorns right where I'd walked. You know, and those other two deer both ended up, you know, downwind of me. Granted, the wind died down at night, but they were down below me in elevation. My thermals were pulling that way. Granted, before dark, I dropped some milkweed, and that milkweed ended up hitting the base of my tree. So I think I lucked out with, like, at the distance away from me that those deer were, that my scent wasn't super strong. And that's the point I'm trying to connect here is that, I've had situations where deer's downwind of me and all of a sudden, boom, they were completely calm and out of nowhere they just like look up and they're on high alert. And I've also had deer that in the same situation just breeze by and don't care. And I'm starting to wonder if it's like the amount of the whiff that they got. If you took some of those measures or the thermals just happen to be just right where it's like, okay, maybe they smelled just a tiny little glimpse, but it was not enough to trigger a reaction.
Right. They weren't weary of you, and so they smelled it, but maybe they weren't conscious that they smelled it because it was such a small amount. You know what I mean? And that's where I still have like the slightest bit of, I don't even want to say belief in scent control, but that's why I still do practice it a little. It's for those situations,
Mm-hmm. And look at scent control, and I guess for the audience, this is the point where we're trying to drive. Ben and I are on the same page, it sounds like, with how we view scent control, kind of what we do. Like, it's not as big of a thing, like, not firm believers that you need to spray down and stuff, but we look at hunting in general, all aspects, the actual hunt, scent control, shooting, practicing, everything that you can buy or everything that you can practice all comes down to one thing. It all correlates to one thing. And that thing is increasing your percentages to have a shot opportunity at a deer.
Correct.
So whether that's, we talk about practice at 60 yards, so you're comfortable shooting 30. What does that do? That's increasing your percentages of making a better shot at 30 yards. We're talking about scent control. Using these products, excuse me, taking showers, like wiping down your gear, all the stuff that we do is not to, the belief is not we're completely eliminating scent. Scent's no longer a factor. We're invincible in the woods. We can go anywhere. That is not the case. What we're getting at here is that every little thing I think you can do, granted, take it with some salt, the only reason you're doing it is to increase your chances of a deer not smelling you or decrease your chances of a deer smelling you. And that's what we're looking at, and that's the entire game of hunting. I mean, you bring in, what is it called? The ozone generators. What's the ozonics? Or like a scent crusher or something that people have in the tree, and like there's firm believers in the industry and people that hunt. Like, I won't go hunt without it. I've never used one. I don't think I'd ever, attempt to use one. But that same product again is designed just to increase your chances of a deer not smelling you. And that's what this whole thing is. And I think there's a mix of, I think there's some scent control or preventative measures that you as a hunter can take to try and, increase that percentage of not getting smelled. But then the other, portion or another way you can increase that percentage is just woodsmanship and growing with, wind direction, your access, your thermals and stuff like that. And possibly ground scent. And I've never been huge on ground scent. Now, here's one thing that I'll mention, is that growing up, when it was summertime and you were running trail cameras, my dad, my uncles were super big on when you blip a picture of a big buck or a deer you want to kill, like, do not keep going checking that camera. Like, you don't want to put pressure on the spot. You don't want to leave scent in the spot. So they would always tell me to go during the rain, when scent is washing away, like, go when it's wet out to check the camera or hang a stand. And that's what I always did. And granted, I don't know one way or the other if it worked or didn't work. But now it's just in the last year or so, I've heard the feedback the other way. Specifically podcasts and guys that track deer with dogs, saying, because people will post online and be like, oh no, it rained, the dog's not going to, be able to pick up the scent. But from a certified dog trainer, this guy did a podcast, and was talking about, like, no, when you get rain, it actually increases the scent, and it's easier for a dog to track while things are wet, which is, like, threw me for a loop, because I'm like, the last 10 years, everybody's been telling me in my family, like, don't go in there, while it's dry, you need it to be wet. And now I'm listening to this guy, and he's like, your best time to scout, and anything else is when it's bone dry, when it's just, like, your scent can blow off with the dust in the wind.
I have first-hand experience with this. So, a couple of years ago, I shot a buck. It was bone dry. Couldn't find him that night. Called a dog. Came in. Realized the deer was still alive. Non-lethal hit. Whatever. Day or two later, my dad goes out to sit. and it was supposed to rain later that night. And this is like 7th or 8th of November, right? Like this is when it's getting dark at like 5 o'clock, and maybe 5:05, and it's supposed to rain at like 8 o'clock. So ample time to shoot a deer, even if it's at dark. Let it lay for an hour and a half. Still have time to blood trail that deer, right? Like,
yep.
Buck comes in maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes before last light. Shooter buck, he shoots it, and he shoots a crossbow. Sees the arrow hit, thinks it's a perfect hit, doesn't get a ton of penetration, but thought it was enough, like thought this deer should be dead. And so it was one of those deals where it's like you couldn't have drawn it up any worse. As soon as he shoots this deer, like I'm talking within 10 minutes, this storm blows in. And it is like bad. So he calls the guy that tracked my dog. And he's like, don't worry about it. Like, the rain will help hold the scent to the ground. Just get out of there. Don't go look for it. Get out of there. We'll meet you there when it's done raining. It was one of those rains where it rained like super freaking hard, but it rained for like 2 hours. You know what I mean? But Sure. It was just a soaker. And so he came out, and I mean, there were puddles that were 8 inches deep where there wasn't even water before. One of those types of rains. He came out,
just was an absolute downpour.
And he could not get the dog to pick up the scent, like, at all. Like, not even a little. Like, dog was going a different way every time, just never acted interested. And to this day, like, we don't know if that deer's alive or dead because, like, the guy couldn't, and it was not his fault at all. Like, he's got a great dog, knows what he's doing, and we just normally they can at least tell you, like, even if the dog's only interested for like 100 or 200 yards, they're like, well, it's not interested because the deer's dead or not dead. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, the dog will at least be interested for a little ways. Like, this dog never was, and it's because he couldn't pick up the scent. And so what we determined, now we don't have scientific backing behind this, is it does help, but there is a threshold on that, I think. Sure. And we got so much rain in such little time that we hit that threshold for how much the scent can withstand the rain.
Sure.
Now I
believe that makes sense.
I have no idea what that threshold is. Is it an inch of rain? Is it 2 inches of rain? Is it 3 inches of rain? Is it half an inch? I have no idea. Like, not the slightest clue in my head. But, there definitely is. Like, I fully believe that rain will help keep the scent, but too much rain is going to wash it away.
Sure, and that's something I would personally have to dive into. I'd have to see, like, I don't even know if there's studies out there, and I'm sure there is for these guys to be making claims like that. Or maybe it's just experience for, their dogs after, like, a drizzle or something, or even, like, most of your mornings here in November, October, when you wake up to go hunt, if you're sitting, in the morning, there's always dew. There's condensation on the ground, just because where we live in Wisconsin, you might get up to 60s during the daytime, but all of a sudden, boom, it's 35 degrees in the morning, so everything sits. And, you can't get away from it, so I'm wondering if that's another cause for that.
Yeah, but I was the exact same way. Like, when I was younger, like, until I heard that from him and saw that experience, like, I'd be like, oh, it's supposed to rain in 3 hours, I'm gonna go scout because I won't leave any scent in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I always did. And I'm like, here, because there was days that I was like, I did it anyways when it was bone dry and hot, just because I'm like, that's all the time I have. And my uncle would be like, oh, I can't believe you went in there, you're going to mess up your spot doing that. And like, I seriously, like, now that I think about it, I don't recall, like, I still had deer on camera that same night, that buck would show up the same day or a day later and, and still be in the area. And I'm like, well, I don't know what he's talking about, but
yeah,
and that's just weird, like, that certain people believe certain things, and it just comes down to, who you know and who's influencing you. Like, there could be guys that listen to this podcast that take everything we say with a grain of salt. Ultimately, you as a hunter have to make your own decisions and your own choices, but from lots of experience on both sides of the fence of this subject that Ben and I have been on, I seriously think that, no, you cannot 100% control your scent, but again, it's all preventative measures and stuff that, you can do. And I think some of the North America's best big buck killers, mobile hunters, guys that you watch that necessarily aren't like hunting private land, but guys that are seriously going on public or even just their own property and killing, good deer. Like, most guys I know in the industry that are doing it, like, they're not spraying up with nose jammer, they're not using dead downwind or ozonics in the tree for the most part. I mean, they're literally, the only two things on their mind is, this is where I think the bedding is, this is the wind, this is how I'm sitting based on how the thermals are going to be an hour before dark, and they go and they kill.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird though, because I've always thought of Jeff Sturgis, like, I got pretty big into his videos for a while. I've always thought of him as like one of probably the realest hunters out there. You know what I mean? Like, he's very transparent about the fact that he hunts his own land. Here's how you can set up your properties for success. I don't use mock scrape scents because I could. Like, I've been offered to take money, but I don't believe in them. You know what I mean? And he uses Limit Shield as a scent killer or a cover scent. It's one of those things. Yeah, I think you need to be aware of the fact that, like, you are not going to outsmart a deer's nose, right? There's just, you're not. There's just no possible way. But at the same time, like, it's one of those things, like I said, for $30 or $40 probably for the year, you're covered for all the scent products you would need, and you're 100% not hurting anything. You're not making things worse. You know what I mean? So if anything, if you can help yourself a little bit, like, yeah, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? If you can leave less scent in the woods, or maybe for those one-off scenarios like we talked about where not enough scent hits the deer's nose or whatever it might be, why would you not try to increase your odds in that sense?
And I've had some crazy, like, there's people even, like, I would say you and I are still in the middle of the fence when we're talking about, I think it could potentially help, but I know guys that absolutely are, nothing you could do is going to help. He's a good guy to have these conversations with because he likes to play devil's advocate, and he's, like, super opinionated on this stuff. And he loves to make fun of me because I use nose jammer occasionally. And he's like, he's like, you're adding scent. That's just more stuff in the air for deer to smell. Like, isn't that going against what you're getting at? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I think you have a point to it because you're right. Like, when you put on nose jammer, the entire point is not to kill your scent. It's to have something else that the deer would smell, instead of your stinky whatever it is. And I've hunted with this guy last year when we were testing nested products, and it's early season, shooting light till about 7:30, and at 6:30 this guy pulls out a can of off bug spray in the tree and just douses himself. And I took a video of it. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, you can't ever beat the scent. He's like, if our wind's good, it doesn't matter that I'm spraying this all over myself. We're going to be fine. And I'm still a little on the fence about that because I'm like, a product that's that potent, like, if somebody sprayed bug spray outside 20 yards from you, like, you as a person are still going to get a whiff of that, even if the wind's not in your direction. Like, you're going to smell it. I'm like, a deer, I still think, now instead of you're talking a scent cone and wind direction, you just draw, like, a radius around you, and they're going to smell that. But, we still saw deer. Like, we had deer within 30 yards of us 20 minutes later, and I was sitting there like, what the hell? Like, just stupid things. And that almost goes to prove my, like, I think you're way better off playing the wind and thermals anyways, because you can spray yourself with a can of off bug spray. Or guys that smoke cigarettes in the tree, luck out, and they shoot big deer. Like, all this stuff goes against the scent killer products.
Yeah, but I think that's back to my point of, like, why I still do participate in, like, washing my clothes and scent killer and some of that stuff, especially now that I'm hunting mobily, is, like, I get sweaty a lot of the time. Walking in, walking out. And it's like, okay, if I get sweaty, then I don't wash my clothes, and then I get sweaty, and don't wash my clothes again, and then I get sweaty, and don't do it again, and yada, yada, yada. Like, by the 6th or 7th time, like, I can smell myself. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it smells like ass cheeks.
Yeah, and it's like, how much scent am I just, like, it's just coming off of me in, like, a big cloud. You know what I mean? Where the doesn't even have to have a wind that's directly at the deer for me to get winded. You know what I mean? It's like what you just said with the off bug spray. But have you heard of guys that smoke out before they go into the woods?
I've heard. I don't know anybody in particular, but I know that there are people that'll like have a campfire and hang their clothes on a clothesline and just smoke, which in theory, like, I can understand that perspective, right? Wildfire smoke, wood burning is a natural scent. It is throughout. I don't care what you say. 2,000 years ago, there were forest fires, and the animals smelt them. Like, so I think there's maybe some legitimacy to that, but at the same time, like, you're talking cover scent, you know, where guys, instead of like the deer smelling my ass that stinks, the deer are gonna smell fire and smoke. That's a natural occurrence in the woods.
Do you think when it comes to something like that, though, because smoke is such a strong smell, you know what I mean?
It's potent.
And it's
very potent.
If it's not alarming to them, I've heard it two ways of like the way you just explained it, and I've also heard that it's just like a foreign scent to them. Because if you think of deer in like northwest Wisconsin, like if you're hunting somewhere remote, like the Blue Hills, like those deer don't know what a campfire is. More than likely, you know what I mean? They might.
Maybe.
They might, but like, do you think that something that's so potent like that, it's strong enough to just cover up your human scent? Like, your scent is obviously still there, but it's like you just reek of campfire.
Possibly, and what you just said actually stirred up a thought I've had in the past, right? This also spawns again. So I'm sitting in a tree last night, and I had gray squirrels above me. That when gray squirrels spook, like they'll see you, they just have different vision. They'll sit there and make a bunch of noise and almost like give you away. You know, but I've watched, you know, deer and turkeys in the same spot, and they coexist together. I've watched deer and squirrels where squirrels are running around, making noise, doing whatever. They coexist together. So the thought I have is all these other natural animals that occur in the same setting and live in the same setting that a white-tailed deer would be, coexist and don't care. So let's take the example of a skunk. A skunk is the most potent thing you could have in the woods. So, like, granted, you would never want to do this, and nor would I want to do this, but say you found a skunk, and you had that skunk just spray all of your clothes, just douse it in the worst-smelling thing possible. In theory, same thing as the smoke. Do you think that would be a good cover scent in the woods? If deer walks by and all they smell is skunk, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it $1 million product idea? Not sure.
Probably not. Like,
the
way it works,
think about it.
The way it works would probably be good. Getting people to buy it would probably be a little tricky.
No, but that's my thing. But if you could prove that if you wore it 100% of the time and it worked, people would do it. They would be willing to do it. Like, a guy's like, okay, I'm not doing it every day, but if I got a Buck's bedroom pinned and this thing's a booner and I can't get close to it unless I smell like a skunk, like the day of, dude, he's gonna go, you know, cheese himself with skunk spray and go in there. But it's just that same process. Granted, this is somewhat out of pocket, but I think the same rule applies, right? So like natural scents that don't frighten deer, you know, and that's things that they're used to and that are in their environment. So that's, you know, comes down to it where, like, I think if you're gonna use something, like, figure out something natural that's maybe native to your area. Like, you know, if you were mule deer hunting and you're spot stalking, and similar to like how I store my clothes in balsam, or I used to store them with balsam limbs and stuff, so they'd have a strong pine scent, which was natural to the area. Like out there, maybe you want to cut a bunch of sagebrush and toss it in there and just, you know, instead of killing your scent, maybe adapt yourself to the terrain that you're hunting in. But that's always not practical, right? Like I wear my same clothes here in Wisconsin, hunting in oaks and pine trees, and I'm going to go out to North Dakota in 2 more weeks and wear the same clothes. I'm not going to wash a goddamn thing before I go out there. I'm going to drive 12 hours in my truck, sleep in the same pair of underwear, and probably go hunt the next day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. It is an interesting topic, whether you believe in it or not. You know what I mean? It is interesting to talk about the different perspectives and things like that. And like I said, it's just another tool in the belt. Like you said, it's a way to give yourself a more realistic chance at, you know, there's so many things in hunting that you have to do or have to be aware of that all add up to equal that chance at a big buck. You know what I mean? It's like, so different example, but to the same point, yesterday, like when I've been packing in with my system, it's just bulky. And because of that, I get tired, I sweat more, I make more noise coming through the woods. And so I pulled my system out yesterday. I was like, I gotta make this a little bit more efficient. Like, I gotta figure out how to get some weight in here. Like, and I'm like, well, I really wanted to get a buck on camera, like a shot on camera this year, but I'm like, for as long as I'm mobile hunting, I'm like, I just don't think it's realistic. Like, my camera arm probably weighs 5 to 6 pounds by the time I'm done with the camera arm and strap and camera. Like, and,
join the club, dude.
yeah,
Join the
and
club.
I'm just, and back home, I will say, like, there's definitely times you are bushwhacking. I'm not saying that, but trails are cut out so much better for you to walk down than they are down here. Yep. That I'm trying to weave through trees and shit, and when I got extra weight on my back, it is just, so I eliminated some stuff from my pack yesterday. I probably got rid of, I would say, 6 pounds or so, and like, I put it on, and I'm like, this is so much better. Like, this is gonna help a ton, you know. And it's the reason that I explain that is it's one of those things that's necessary to help you get the chance at that deer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like scent control. It's just like thermals. It's just like hunting the wind. It's just like shooting your bow. They're all necessary pieces of the puzzle. You know, if you don't,
yeah, and that's the same thing. Like, you're talking about eliminating weight. You know, those guys that carry Xanax or cans of bottles of spray and stuff like that's extra weight that I'm not sure you need. I think that's a precaution you could take at the truck or whatever
and
it is.
I would do that stuff like. Back to the camera arm thing, and camera arm, ozonics, whatever you want it to be. Like, if I'm walking to a preset stand, even if I gotta walk 3/4 of a mile, well, all I'm carrying is my backpack and my bow. You know what I mean? So to throw a 6 pounds worth of camera gear in there, and a grunt tube, and rangefinder, binos, maybe some water, a snack or two, like, not that big of a deal. But all of a sudden you've got a stand and 3 climbing sticks on your back, and then you're trying to pack all that stuff in. 1, it's way more bulky. 2, now you've got way more weight on you, Yep. And yeah, so I don't know.
So some key takeaways for guys that wanted to actually get stuff out of this podcast. This is what I want you to take away. First and foremost, above all scent control measures that you can take, the primaries need to be know the terrain you're going into, adapt to the wind, and thermals. First, that should be the first 2 things on your mind above any product or anything we're talking about, is hunt based on predominant wind direction, where it's coming from, have some milkweed or something where you can consistently monitor where your wind's blowing, how your thermals are carrying. That is first and foremost. Secondary, I would say, is when you start diving into these percentages and increasing your odds. So it's like, okay, if the wind's in my favor, if the thermals are in my favor, I probably don't need anything. If I'm going into a setup, which the last couple times I've hunted, the wind is marginal, meaning like there's a chance I can, sneak by without them hitting what I believe my scent cone would be, but there's also a good chance that I think a deer's going to hit that. So let's take a couple more preventative measures. Even if it's complete BS, in my mind, I'm still like, okay, this may help. I don't think it's going to hurt, but I think it might help. And that's where that, scent products and stuff like that come into play.
And I think for a large number of hunters, like, sometimes you have to go into that marginal setup. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think if you're...
For me right now, I've got 1 stand that's hot, and, like, I've only got a few more weeks to get it done here. Well, that's not true, but, like, before the rut, I've only got a few more weeks. I'm going to be gone for the rut. I'm going back to Wisconsin to hunt. Like, I really want to get it done here before then. Well, I have 2 days a week to hunt, and not just pick your 2 days. It's Saturday, Sunday. Well, if the wind's wrong, I still kind of want to go into the stand where I have if the wind's dead wrong, I'm probably not, but if the wind's marginal, like, I want to do what I can to get into that spot. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the deer are.
You're looking at risk versus reward.
Right,
with that.
Right. And so, it's in that situation, those products, or maybe it's not products, but maybe it's just scent control, however you want to do it, are gonna help you or have a chance of helping you in those situations.
Sure. Yep. I fully believe that. And it's, we have different factors. Like the guys I know in the industry that are using ozonics, you use them, one, they're getting paid for it. I get that. I think, they tell you they believe in it, but I've also had conversations with these people like, hey man, I've had this like, big buck showing up, and I'm like, why don't you go in there for, are you going after him tonight? And they're like, no, the wind is bad. And I'm like, okay, but you have an ozonics, like, but your wind's bad and you're still not going in there. So even the people that have that stuff, nobody, and I mean nobody, is 100% convinced that they're going to beat a deer's nose.
Yeah. Yep. So, I think that's what we're going to leave you on tonight.
Yeah, so stay tuned for some more stuff coming up. 2 weeks, we got a North Dakota hunt again. Hopefully I'm not sick. So it should be a way better post-hunt clarity recap. We're going to try and get some guests on here soon. I got the working class hunter guys coming into town next weekend for some photo shoots with work. If we get some downtime and Ben's able to swing it, we're going to hop on a podcast with those guys and kind of recap what they're seeing, what's going on in their neck of the woods. And then as the season goes on, we're going to try and get some more guests on this podcast so it spices some things up for you guys.
Hell yeah. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
All right, guys. Go kill.